Inravio.com.
Okay. Education. Had to quit school or go work on the farm, help support the family. Started racing at 24 at the local dirt tracks and in the NASCAR series in 1963. He had 37 wins in the top series in NASCAR in his lifetime, and he holds the record for most poles with 20 in a single season, which he did in 1969, 1970. Turned a lap at the Talladega Motor Speedway in Alabama at 201.104 miles per hour, a record which stood until 1983. In 1973, Isaac dropped out of a race at the Talladega Motor Speedway. Mid-race, nothing going wrong with the car. He just pulled down a pit road. He told people he quit. As Ned Jarrett, the gentleman Ned Jarrett said, he must have heard voices telling him to get out of the car. So he left, walked out of the car, didn't even tell his owner, didn't tell his crew chief, nothing. He just pulled down pit road and got out of the race car. In 74 and 76, he showed up every once in a while and ran a reduced schedule at his request just to drive around. In 1971, Isaac broke 28 world speed records at the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah. So it's kind of like that period that when he got out, he decided, let's go break some speed records. Let's just go straight instead of making turns. He's in the National Motorsports Press Hall of Fame in 1979, the International Motorsports Hall of Fame in 1996. Named one of NASCAR's 50 greatest drivers in 1998, and in 2015, he entered the NASCAR Hall of Fame, the prestigious NASCAR Hall of Fame located down in Charlotte, North Carolina. On August 13th, though, 1977, racing in the Winston 200, a late model sportsman race at Hickory Motor Speedway in North Carolina, Isaac called for a relief driver. Temperatures were in the mid-90s, humid. Pulled down pit road, got out of the car, and collapsed. Upon exiting the car, he just collapsed. He went down. Efforts to revive him worked, and they brought him to a local hospital. However, he died the next day by a heart attack caused by heat exhaustion. At 15 years in the Cup Series, 37 wins in 308 races. He also ran the Grand National East, where he had 4 wins in 8 races. So his winning percentage was very, very good. You wonder if Bobby Isaacs did not feel ill, if Bobby Isaacs didn't, there was a picture of him smoking back in one of the pictures there, maybe if he wasn't a smoker. All these maybes. The records that this man would have broke would have been incredible. He did all of this, 15 years of racing, and better than a 20% winning percentage. Bobby Isaacs, the 1970 Monster Energy NASCAR Cup champion, is now racing at the Heaven Motor Speedway, as they call it, where it never rains, it's never cold, and you always pass tech. Bobby Isaacs. He is missed. Our next individual will be Donny Leah, NASCAR Whelen Modified Champion. 2 seasons, 2007, 2009. He was a Racer Champions winner in 2004, 5, 6, and 7. Donny Leah, born November 8th, 1978. He raced in an INEX series. He raced in the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series. He drove at Riverhead Raceway in the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series. He raced in ARCA. He raced in the Camping World Truck Series. And he also raced in the Xfinity Series. He started racing online against competition all over the world. An online racer, playing these online games that when you looked at the screens and you looked at a picture of the racetrack, it was identical, because even the rust coming off the fence in some of these tracks, and I had seen some of them, matched the game and matched it really well. But he got his start there. Little hand-eye coordination, very important for a race car driver, hand-eye coordination. So he raced in these series, and he went to Dad and said, I want to race a race car. So he went INEX Legend Racing, and he ran cars at Wall, New Jersey, with several victories. And he raced legends all over the East Coast, securing 20 victories, and even raced at Long Island's Riverhead Raceway in the Legends. Moving over to the Modifieds and the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series, he was the Rookie of the Year in Modifieds his first season at Riverhead Raceway. And then he went tour racing. His tour debut, Martinsville Speedway, Martinsville, Virginia, in 2002. Just a race, just to see how it goes. He had been racing the Modifieds there on Long Island. He decided that in 2003 he'd go full-time and had a top 10 in points and Rookie of the Year. In 2006, he drove an ARCA event at the Nashville Speedway in Tennessee. 2007, debuted in the Camping World Truck Series for the Bill Davis Racing at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. He also raced a truck in Mansfield, Ohio, the Mansfield Speedway, and with a Camping World Truck Series victory. I remember watching that race, getting all excited because the guy a guy from your home track, is doing well. He was the first driver from Riverhead Raceway here on Long Island to win in the National Series since Steve Park did it in 2001. And we all know that Steve Park won Cup racing by way of Riverhead Raceway, by way of the Tour, and thanks to Dale Earnhardt Sr. His second championship in 2009 was driving the Mystic Missile #4 for Bob Garbarino. His Xfinity debut came at the Charlotte Motor Speedway in 2009. The Camping World Truck Series, he was 3 years in 39 races. He had 1 win and made just under $500,000 in earnings in that series. He had 16 seasons and 17 wins in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, and also won there close to $500,000 in earnings. Donny Leah, I know Donny Leah. I watched him grow up in racing. I happened to be the head official at the Riverhead Raceway here in Long Island when Donny cut his teeth in his not only his legend car, but with the modified. And a little story I want to share and with Donny. Donny's dad was his sponsor. They own a bunch of car dealerships throughout the New York metropolitan area. And with any type of racing, you have to have help. So they never knew who was going to be there to help on race day. So Donny's father, Mr. Lee, went out and purchased enough licenses for 8 or 10 people. And next thing you know, I asked one of his crew members for their license. They did something that was, needed to be discussed. And he gives me his NASCAR license. And I knew the guy that was on this NASCAR license. It wasn't this one. I said, where did you get this? He goes, well, Mr. Lee gave it to me. So now we have to bring Mr. Lee in and explain, so we kick everybody out, and I'm going to talk about it. And Mr. Lee says, Joe, I went out and bought 10 licenses. I don't know who's going to come out and help us. So on race day, I just passed them out to people like, come. He didn't understand how that worked. And then another story with his dad, and I say this all in good jest here. Before we had transponders, Donny's father would score. Now, for those who've never scored a car in a race, and it's very similar in the modifieds back then as it is in enduros, where somebody has a card and there's 100 laps on it, 200 laps, whatever, and there's a clock ticking, you write down the number every time your car passes the start-finish line. Well, Donny had a good finish, and we're going over his scorecard, and there's like 30 laps missing. 30 laps, no numbers written down. So we got to go talk to his dad and say, Mr. Lee, what happened? He goes, well, Donny was making a move, and I got so excited I forgot to write down the numbers. And it was, okay, it happens, and he wasn't penalized for it, but we had a good laugh over it later on. But the story that I really want to share, we're up at Beach Ridge Speedway up in Maine for a modified touring event. And the National Guard was putting on a display. They had a display in the midway. They had equipment on the racetrack. And it was a long intermission. I don't remember why, but it was a long intermission. Well, next thing you know, 2 tour drivers. The other one I can't remember because he only hopped in the Jeep and drove away. But Donny hopped in the truck that was towing the cannon that they were going to blast off after the national anthem. And they did a lap. Everybody thought it was funny, except for the National Guard. So I crack up thinking about it. So now the lieutenant or the colonel, whoever he was, some guy with medal on his shoulders, starts yelling at me. I'm the race director, and he starts yelling at me, and he's like, who gave him permission to do that? I said, I didn't do that. The fans thought it was great. They made a big deal about it, but at the end of the day, there was no harm, no foul. We kind of gave a heads up to the people in NASCAR down south, just in case the National Guard put in a complaint. It was all well and good. Nothing happened. There was no penalties handed out. But we had a good time with Donny. Donny was always one, you have a good time with. And I can remember we played in a golf tournament together in the memory of the late Tom Baldwin Sr. And I could tell as soon as we went to the first tee box that Donny didn't really play golf. He did what he was told, grab that club, hit, boom, go get your ball out of the woods, and so forth and so on. Well, we get to the first green, and we're going to putt. We're going to putt, and Donny grabs his pitching wedge. And so he goes, what do you do with that? He goes, I'm going to putt. He goes, that's not a putt. He goes, yeah, there's a P on it, because it was a pitching wedge. But we all got a good laugh, always had a good time with Donny and his dad and whoever else came along. And I'll tell you what, it was good. It was good, clean fun. He kind of stepped out of racing, Donny. He's got a family now. He runs one of the family dealerships. I believe it's in New Rochelle. And he had his time. I'm sure he would love to come back in it, but you know what? When you're a family man and you run a business, that's what comes first. So Donny was going to try to come tonight. We communicated over the weekend. He was going to try to come, but it's a long hike from New Rochelle to our studios here in East Long Island, and he lives in Jericho, which is an even, a long trip to get home. So, Donnie, you're welcomed anytime. I know you're probably watching, but there we go. Donny Leah, two-time NASCAR wheel and modified champion, is missed in racing. Good, hard-running racer, and who knows what could have been done with Donny if he would have lasted all those years, didn't run partial seasons, because he always had good equipment, even when it was his own, and when it was Bob Garbarino. So that's it for Donny Lee, and of course Bobby Isaacs, who, as 22 figure eight said, he heard voices telling him to get out. And they said it was my crew chief. It was one of those things. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and we'll come back with the results of the K&N Pro Series NASCAR touring event, which was held at the New Smyrna Speedway in New Smyrna Beach in Florida, when we come back.
Hey, I was going to say what's up for some reason. Hey, we're Set It Up, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE, your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hi there, this is Buddy from Less Than Jake, and you are listening to Inravio TV. You're probably watching it too.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Handled our sound issue, so sorry about that. So I think you got most of it. Anyway, K&N Pro Series East NASCAR Touring Series started their 2018 season with their first event at the New Smyrna Speedway in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. I have been at that event many times for Speedway. But anyway, the K&N Pro Series Todd Gilliland was the winner there, followed by Cole Rouse, Harrison Burton third, Derek Krause fourth, Tyler Ankrum fifth, Spencer Davis sixth, Anthony Sergi seventh, Ronnie Bassett Jr. eighth, and we have Tyler Dipple ninth, and Brandon McReynolds rounding out the top 10. Good event there. 29 cars on hand, so that's a good showing for the K&N Pro Series East. Their next event will be at the Bristol Motor Speedway in Tennessee on April 14th. And the K&N Series West Series will open up on March 15th at the Kern County Raceway Park in Bakersfield, California. The touring event for the NASCAR Whelen Modifieds, their first event, their opener, will be at the Myrtle Beach Speedway, located in South Carolina, and that'll be March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. So that'll be a good opportunity for them to get going. And always, not always, but the last couple of years, they moved the opening race to the Myrtle Beach Speedway. And for years and years and years, and I'm going to say it again, years, they always opened up at the Thompson Motorsports Park in Thompson, Connecticut. And it was one of the things that the owner at the time, he insisted on that. They called it the icebreaker. We're going to freeze our butts off and we're going to go racing. It's the first event. And then he had the last event, the World Series at Thompson. Well, the Speedway changed hands, although it stayed in the family. And it was renamed from the Thompson Speedway to the Thompson Motorsports Park, where the grandsons are running the facility now, and they've made a spectacular road course in the facility, which was there decades ago. But they just made it bigger, made it nicer. The pit area has garages for the touring series that come in, and you really feel, when you go there, you feel like a professional race car driver. You're not parked in the sand and cracked pavement with potholes. It's a really fine facility. But, you know, sending the Northern, and I'm still going to call it the Northern Tour because there was a Southern Tour for a few years. And the Northern Tour years ago ran a lot of races in a season. But they stayed primarily on Long Island, upstate New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine. They had a race down in Richmond, which was an awesome place to watch modifieds race. They'd go to Martinsville, and then they started this Bristol thing midweek. Guys were taking a whole week off, and now heading south to Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach is a fine facility, a fine speedway. They do a nice job there. However, you're still talking about a series where the majority of the drivers hold full-time jobs. You're still talking about a series where the crew chiefs and the crew members are not paid. They too are taking time off from work and losing money to go to these events. They must pass 3 dozen racetracks on the way to Myrtle Beach, and I don't mean drive right by them, but at the exits there for them. I don't understand why we're not racing, like I'm still there, why the Modified Tour does not race at some of these facilities. Richmond, why are we not there? Why are we not upstate New York racing some of those places? Yes, Spencer and Chemung are no longer NASCAR, and Adirondack Speedway, when we raced there, was not NASCAR, way upstate New York. They did a one-day sanction. Everybody was happy. But to take this series out of its roots and take it all the way to South Carolina, it was, I thought, going to Daytona Beach for the Battle at the Beach, where they really didn't even race on a racetrack. They raced on the Daytona Speedway property using a part of the backstretch and then what was called a slowdown area of pavement with tires and cones marking out the racetrack. And I was an official for that event, and I really felt that that was downgrading the series. And I know, as a race car driver, now you get to go home after that Daytona battle at the beach and say, I drove at Daytona. I drove at Daytona. And if you won the event, I won at Daytona. Yeah, it's bragging rights. It's bragging rights. And I don't mean to take anything away from anybody that had that jubilation. But I'm glad that they stopped going there with the modifieds. And I just wish they'd reevaluate this Myrtle Beach Speedway event. It doesn't pay a lot of money. Racing doesn't pay a lot of money, trust me. But it doesn't pay a lot of money, and you would hope that it would at least cover the cost for the haulers to get down there. Fuel. Just getting out of New England and off Long Island, the fuel for your hauler. And some of the guys, they piggyback and double up together when they go. But, when you have to travel that distance and you don't get to bring your crew, you don't get to bring your regular people, you get to bring who is able to get off that week. And I'd like to see that be reevaluated moving forward, because it's just not working, in my opinion. The K&N Pro Series East and West, it's a whole different group of people. Most of these drivers are involved with teams, and I don't mean local teams. They're involved with Hendrick. They're involved with Joe Gibbs. They're involved with Penske. They're involved with Richard Childress. And when they're racing on that, what has happened is the K&N Pro Series East has really become, in my opinion, a development series. Now, a guy like Dan Watts from Long Island, who's fielding a car there, he's competing against big money. When you look at Visconti Motorsports and Brandon McReynolds and their team, they're the outsiders coming in. Visconti out of Staten Island, New York, moving his shop and everything down to North Carolina to be in the center of it all. But when you look at these guys, they're competing against multi-million-dollar teams. Multi-million-dollar teams. And the guys here from New York that took that move down, Visconti and Watts, they're like the old school guys when the K&N Pro Series East was way back when the Busch North. When it was the Busch North. And it was guys from this area, albeit hoping to make that move into the next series. But I looked at the rookie list in the K&N Pro Series East today, and there were 29 cars. And if I'm not mistaken, there were 12 rookies. 12 rookies. Almost half the field is rookies, because nobody stays in this series a long time as a driver. Yeah, the team owners do, and they keep developing, new drivers and they come along, but they don't stay there long enough. So winning the series title, which is hard to do, but then to win the Rookie of the Year, you're talking a stiff bunch of competitors in that competitive basket for Rookie of the Year. What has happened again here, and this is just my opinion, the K&N Pro Series East shouldn't have been allowed to become a development series for the top teams. It shouldn't have been. And what is happening now is the guys who run the modified tour do not have the opportunity now to move up that step because they're not affiliated with a top cup team. You go back, and we're doing the where are they now thing, and when you look at some of these drivers, when you look at the Stefaniks, Mike Stefanik, and you look at Ricky Fuller, Jeff Fuller, they made that transition because the tracks that the modifieds are running in the Northeast were the same tracks that the Busch North was running in at the time. And those guys had opportunities. I don't see that happening. Yeah, Ryan Preece, you know, he got to hop in an Xfinity car and fill in and did okay, did more than okay. And, you know, yeah, the opportunity was there for him. But we talked about Todd Zegedy last week, the 2003 NASCAR Wheel and Modified champion, went down to there and the team ran out of money. And like I've said on many, many shows, it's no longer the talent that gets you to ride. The first thing, and I can almost picture this, you know, kid shows up with his resume and is ready to go, and he sits down with an owner of a big team, and they don't ask what experience you have. They said, how much money you got? What sponsor you bringing? What are you bringing to the table? And what they want them to bring to the table is a blank check. It's very expensive to run in not only these tourings, any series, at any level. And if you don't have sponsorship money behind you, it's not going to happen. And somebody just recently asked me, you know, how does that work? How does that work? You know, racing's expensive, so, you know, where do you get that money from? You get it from sponsors. And you hope, and that sponsor hopes there's a return on that sponsorship dollar, and so that they keep coming back, because that's what keeps them coming back. Growing their business, helping them grow their business while they're helping you grow your racing career. And as long as that works, that's why sponsors stay for a long period of time. You know, like I spoke about last week, it's not your buddy who has a boatload of cash and he wants to help you out. That runs out. That money runs out. And it's, you know, when you do have a guy like that, and I'm going to say it again, if you got somebody that's just throwing cash at you to go racing at your local raceway, I call that money laundering. And money laundering, the last time I looked, is a federal offense. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and we come back. We're going to talk about what went on in Daytona this past weekend and what's planned for the rest of the week at the Daytona International Speedway, the world center of speed, when we come back.
Hi, I'm Remington.
I'm Emerson.
And I'm Sebastian.
We're Palais Royale, and you're watching Inravio TV.
There we go.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Hey, this is Chris Les Jake, and if Inravio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE. Your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop. 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hi, this is Mike Jarecki from My Race News, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Welcome back, everybody. Yes, welcome back. It's race season, guys and gals. It's race season. Smell the fuel, smell the rubber. Man, and I still tell people is unless you've done this in 22 figure eight, you could back me up here. Until you've sat in a race car, all strapped in, and you flip that switch and you press that button, and the motor starts humming and you get that smell. and you get that smell, and your whole body's vibrating. There's no better, I'm telling you, there's no better feeling than that. I mean, there's a couple, but it's just one of those things you never forget. You never forget, and it's like riding a bicycle. You know, you could sit out, 22 figure eight's been out for a long time. I bet you if he hopped in a car Saturday, give him a lap or two, he'd be back. He'd be back to where he was when he left. You know, it's just one of those things. But anyway, pole qualifying. Pole qualifying was yesterday at the Daytona International Speedway, and a little surprise to me. Alex Bowman in the Hendrick Motorsports number 88, the former Dale Earnhardt Jr. car, took the pole. And young kid, making it happen. And outside pole was Denny Hamlin, who was able to put his FedEx machine on the outside pole. And you look at these things, and there they are up there. When you think about this, and Daytona is the only race they do that. They have qualifying, a whole afternoon worth of qualifying to pick the front row. And then everybody else. Now 40 cars showed up for this event, so 40 cars are in. Everybody's in. Not like the old days, 50 guys showed up, and then boom. They started 43, 7 went home. There's 40 teams that are there. Everybody's in. So this is what happens. Now, teams get elect after the duels, which are Thursday, because the final 38 spots will be determined by the Can-Am duels that are run Thursday. Those final 38 spots, what will happen is they'll race that race. The inside row will be determined from the first duel, the outside row from the second duel. Now what happens after that? Then a team will be in the race, or their starting position, because everybody's in, will be determined by their lap speed first, which is their qualifying speed from Sunday, or their finish in the duels. Now, I look at that, and I'm like, why make it so hard? So if you want to have pole day on the Sunday before the race, which is next Sunday, and you want to do that, then just, line up the duels, do the odd-numbered finishes in one race, even in the other, and you're racing your way in. Because there's teams, and if you watch this event, there's teams that are just, you know what, I'm in on time automatically. I mean, everybody's in. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to ride around. Why should I beat up my equipment, tear it up, maybe get in a wreck? I don't understand it. It's just one of those things that I don't understand. And I was coming out today on the way to the studio from deep in Queens. Was coming out to the city, and I was listening to Sirius NASCAR, and I'm listening to them, and they're talking about these things, and they're talking about, people are calling in. They want to change the schedule. It's too long. And I'm not meaning the whole schedule. The Speed Week schedule. You qualify this day. You have the Clash on that day, and it's long and drawn out. However, a lot of it has to do with TV and marketing. So, like I said, so Bud pole qualifying is over. Denny Hamlin outside pole, and Alex Bowman on the pole. Thursday, like I said, the final stops with the Can-Am Dude. And Sunday, for the Cup Series, we have the Daytona 500, the Great American Race. Will be live TV at 2:30 p.m. The Super Bowl of racing. And the NASCAR Super Bowl of racing is the first race of the year. I never understood that anyway. But anyway, they had the Clash on Sunday. It was usually run on a Saturday night, but they had the Clash, which is a non-points race, pays a lot of money. There's no getting you into the playoffs by winning. There's nothing. You're in the Clash based on this criteria. 17 cars took the green for the Clash. There were 20 eligible drivers. However, Dale Earnhardt Jr. retired. He was eligible. Danica Patrick was eligible, and her deal to run a Cup car at Daytona just happened a little too late, and they were not able to field a car in time for the event. And of course, Matt Kenseth, who retired at the end of last season with little or no fanfare. The class format is 75 laps, 25 laps run and with a competition caution. I think I like that segment a little better than when they had 3 segments. They keep trying to reinvent it. Here's the perfect segment, in my opinion, for the Clash. 75 laps. 25 laps, you run, you invert the field based on lap times. Next segment of 25 laps, because you know some guys are just going to hang out, so they could get an up front spot for segment 2. So now what you do is you don't invert the field for segment 2. The slowest guy in segment 2 is in the middle of the pack, and then you go that way. So you're kind of juggling the finish or the start. And then the last segment is you take the average fast time for the first 2. Those guys are in the back. Now, from practice speeds, if a guy's running, and I'm going to use miles per hour, 201 miles an hour, all throughout practice, and then he goes in the race and he's running 194, he's bagging it. So there's ways to deal with people like that. But anyway, here's the results from the Clash. And remember, there's no points here. It's all bragging rights. Brad Keselowski, he was the winner there, followed by Joey Logano. Kurt Busch, 3rd. Ryan Blaney, 4th. Austin Dillon, 5th. Denny Hamlin was 6th. Kyle Busch, 7th. Eric Jones, 8th. Kevin Harvick, 9th. And Kyle Larson rounding out the top 10. Again, 17 cars were eligible, or 20 were eligible, 17 went to the grid. Now, a lot of people say, how do they determine this? It's determined in this way. To get into this race, because it's almost like an invitational, it kind of is. All 2017 pole winners from last year. You won a pole last year, automatically guaranteed spot in the Clash. Any former Clash winners that raced in 2017 are eligible to be in the Clash. And any former Daytona 500 pole winners, going back to 1959, if they're still around, they're eligible as long as they competed in 2017. And it says full-time, the rule book. And what is full-time? Do you have to make every race? I don't know, because I remember a champion who missed like 18 races and was still the champion because he was put in the chase. So pretty interesting to see how that would have turned out. But anyway, that's how you get in. It's not as an exciting race as it used to be. And they don't use their Daytona 500 car for this. They use a car specifically built for this event. And I was watching the race over the weekend, and I noticed the back ends of the car, the bodies were almost hitting the ground. The new rule package added a lot of downforce to these cars. I don't think they need downforce. The race became a parade without music. I don't know what's worse, a parade without music or the 4x4x4x4 when you had that tandem driving. I don't know. I don't know what's worse. Anyway, Speed Weeks. What's going on there? Another thing. Bronson Speedway in Archer, Florida. They had a kickoff to Speed Weeks NASCAR Tour Type modified race cars. They're not a NASCAR facility, but they're tour-type modified. So what exactly is a tour-type modified? It's a modified. It's a modified that follows the NASCAR touring rules. And every year that Bronson Speedway and Youngwin, the owner and promoter at the Bronson Speedway, every year that they've run this event, it's gotten bigger, it's gotten better. And they continue to draw the crowd of fans and race teams all over. And just give you the top 10 that ran that race. Matty Hirschman went down and was the winner there. Craig Lutz was in second. Patrick Emmerling third. Ronnie Williams was fourth. Eric Goodale fifth. Ken Barry sixth. Chuck Hosfeld was seventh. Jeff Gallup was eighth. Chris Young ninth, and Kyle Trainer rounding out the top 10. Ryan Preece was there to race, and as you see, he did not make the top 10. Ryan Preece had a practice crash, and I believe we have some images of the car, but not only did he crash and hit the wall, he went up and over the wall, over the catch fence, and in an area of the facility, and that's what's left of that car, into an area that, thank God, there were no fans standing there watching. I spoke to Ed Partridge, or chatted with him, in regards to the accident, one of those freak things. Ryan Preece is another shot of the car from the other side of the fence. Ryan Preece is just a little bit sore, nothing that a little Motrin won't cure, and maybe a little massage, but Eddie said the car is a total loss, total. And these things cost a lot of money. And I'm going to say thank goodness for the catch fence, because I watched the video. He was up and over. He was airborne. And when I looked at the pictures, I'm like, he hit the fence slowed him down, and then just dropped him onto the ground. And I'll tell you what, I've been in some wrecks where the back end of the car lifted up and came down. I've been in like 2 or 3 of those. One was the bad one. Another one, just somebody got into the back of me and just lifted my car right up. And it was only about 3 feet, but when it came down, it hurt. Because your whole body does this. And like I said, he's probably so. But he was at New Smyrna for the Asphalt World Series down there. From what last I heard, he was having engine problems and probably switching engines. I'm sure Ed and Connie Partridge brought more than one car down south. They normally do. But like I said, speaking of Eddie, Ryan is okay. I like Ryan. I remember when he came up through the modified ranks after being in the weekly series up in Connecticut. And I remember telling him, I said, kid, you're going to be all right. And it was a time when he was racing Todd Zegedy for the win. And Todd was doing all he can to hang on. And, Ryan got into him. The rhythm broke up. I remember watching the video afterwards to see what really happened. The rhythm broke up. And anybody who's ever raced, there's a rhythm. And, Zegedy changed his rhythm after the white flag drop coming out of 2. He didn't get on it when he normally did. And usually that just backs up the field and stacks him up. But Ryan's on his gas. He's ready to go. He's a kid. He's a kid with the experience of a seasoned veteran. And he gets into Zegedy, and Zegedy gets up in the fence, and Ryan Preece crosses the start-finish line first to check a flag, and immediately NASCAR officials said that he was going to be put to the back. He didn't win, and they gave it to the second-place guy. And Ryan Preece was very upset when he came down pit road that he just sat in his car. And I remember I walked up to him, and I said, listen, you didn't do anything wrong there. However, they had to make that call. We had to make that call. If we didn't, it would be like a free-for-all every race. And he just stood there staring. And I said, Ryan, you're good. You're going to get your day. And it was at Stafford that this happened. And I said, your day will come. And that was maybe like, 8 or 9 years ago. and his day has come. Now, he's racing in the Xfinity Series full time. But it's a shame. Eddie Partridge and his crew have immaculately prepared race cars, and to see a car mangled like that coming out of the Partridge garage is sad. It's really sad. But all the safety stuff did what it's supposed to do. I can't emphasize that enough. When you're in racing, don't cut corners on your safety. Make sure you have the right seat, the right belts, right suit, helmet, gloves, everything. Everything. Because when you have a wreck like this, you notice those bars bent up and wheels are hanging. Some of the energy is absorbed so that it's not a solid, stop, like in the Charlie Jazombek days, unfortunately, and the Richie Evans days. So, just one of those things, folks, and we're all glad that Ryan is okay, and sorry to Eddie Partridge for the loss of another race car, but anyway, and indoor races continued, and they ran their last event for the indoor series at the Albany Indoor Series at the Times Union Center in Albany, and this weekend's feature winners, Andy Jokagwiak was the winner in the TQs, followed in the slingshots Nick Del Campo and the champ carts Tyler Brown. When all the points are settled, Justin Bonsignor was the TQ champ, winning the first TC Teddy Christopher trophy. There he is lifting it high atop victory lane. Ted Christopher was, as we know, lost his life on his way to a touring event at the Riverhead Raceway here, Long Island, in a plane crash. But he was one of those competitors in the indoor races that he put on a show. Not only did he put on a show, and I used to say this all the time with Teddy Christopher in the TQs indoor racing, it was Wrecker or Checker. And I've watched him race at those races many, many times over the years. So congratulations to Justin Bonsignor and his people that put this all together. I've known Justin since he's a little kid in the go-kart days. He could wheel a race car, let me tell you. And in the slingshots, Cody Klein was the champion over the 4-race series there. So the indoor races will continue in November, I'm sure. Maybe they'll have a couple more. I'll tell you what. And if you've never, I'm telling you, I mean this, if you've never been to an indoor race in the wintertime, you gotta go. You gotta go. It's awesome. It is definitely awesome. And I think what we'll do, we'll go right through. We'll go right through. Some of the NASCAR news. I was gonna take a break, but I think we're ending in like 6 minutes, so we're gonna take a break. How many? 9. I can stretch them out. All right, some of the news out of NASCAR. The TriStar Motorsports, owner of the Car 72 in the Cup Series, will employ 2 drivers in 2018 to share one car. How does that work? Cole Witt, last year's full-time driver, will share driving duties with Corey LaJoie. LaJoie will run the majority of their schedule, starting with the Daytona 500. LaJoie, a third-generation driver, has won on the K&N Pro Series East and ARCA, and Witt, to his own decision, went to the team owner, Brian Smith, and said, I want to decrease my racing commitment. Now, that's saying he wants to run a limited schedule. He's obviously contracted, and Brian Smith was able to accommodate him. I watched that old movie Days of Thunder, and when Harry was the crew chief and he went to the car owner because there were 2 drivers and 2 drivers and 2 cars, and he said there can only be 1 rooster in a hen house. How does this work? How does this work when you have two capable drivers, with one who was going to be the majority of the races, and the other one who's going to run limited. How does that work? And what happens if one or the other is not performing to task? Do you dump the other guy out? I always wondered about this, and when you have multiple drivers in one car, we're going to split the series. I've seen that in the Xfinity series where they had a different group of drivers, and what that does is the owner's going for owner points. It's obvious to me, but just one of those things kind of talk about. I just don't understand what, there could be something going on, something going on that this driver needs to run a limited schedule, and whatever it is, I hope everything works out for him. I really do. And the new pit stop rules, I watched, tried to see how that was working out. 5 members over the wall instead of 6. Did it work? I don't know. It took 40 people off of pit road, and when I worked pit road, and I worked at pit road in a lot of facilities in New Hampshire, Bristol, Martinsville, it gets crazy. Not so much on green flag stops, because green flag stops are, unless it's a long green flag race, the green flag stops are out, but the cautions, they come in and caution, everybody's there. You're like prime, you're prime. Let's take out an official. I was hit a couple of times, nothing serious, thank God. And I had wheel marks on my butt being, grazed by a car. But I saw some guys get run over and get hurt. So if you could take 40 guys off a pit road, maybe it's a good thing. But that should work. We'll see how that goes. And the other thing I'm watching and reading in the chat room, we're here on Long Island, man, the Nassau Coliseum, I don't think they call it that anymore, but that would be an ideal place to have an indoor race. It would be ideal. They do the monster trucks there, Jay Slice is saying, but we'll see. And then 22 figure 8 is just another thing on Ryan Priest. He's sharing his Xfinity ride, so I know he did last year to help get those points. It's all about the points at the end. It's all about the points. I don't know. Anyway, next week, next Monday night, we will talk about the Daytona 500, the Xfinity race. This is on Saturday, the duels, and of course the Camping World Truck Series race, which is held on Friday at the Daytona International Speedway, the world's center of speed. It'll be an interesting show. And also scheduled to appear live in the studio is New York State INEX Pro champion Artie Peterson III. To talk about his New York State Championship, what his plans are moving forward in 2018. So it should be a good show. You don't want to miss that one. Anyway, I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody for taking a part of your busy day to watch the show and to participate in the chat room. Thanks. The chat room is growing again. I appreciate that. We appreciate that here at Inravio and your participation. But wherever your endeavors will bring you this week, some of you I know are headed south, some of you are already there. Please be safe, please be careful. Give somebody a hug. It's Valentine's Day tomorrow. Give your Valentine a kiss. Tell them you love them. God bless you all, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks, everybody.